Today we have a very special episode. I have Brian from Ramblings from the Rod Pod with me. And the reason why Brian is here is because we are both passionate about comics as well as Transformers.
Absolutely.
We have had a chance to look at all the footage from DC Fandome, and we've seen some reviews, and now we're going to give our 2 cents on what we thought about all the properties in DC Fandome. I was going to hit you with a question right off the bat. Okay.
Hit me. Hit me.
In general, it seems like a lot of the different video games or movies that we saw lent themselves more to like a more adult audience. In particular, the Batman trailer, and then also the Gotham Knights video game and the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League game. And then, of course, there's the mother of all dark takes, which is the Zack Snyder cut of the Justice League movie.
Yes.
So you shared the tweet with me where Zack Snyder was basically like, you liked the version of the Justice League, you compared it to watching Saturday morning cartoons. Well, this movie is for adults, so you're not part of the demographic. Do DC characters, do they get what their characters deserve when they're featured in these sort of adult, dark takes?
I think it really depends on the individual property. Batman has been more of a dark figure since the 80s. Suicide Squad obviously lends itself very much to darker storylines. But other things shouldn't necessarily be. I mean, like, I don't know if a Justice League movie should be like that. You know, I mean, you always picture the Justice League as being something bright and hopeful.
Yes.
And I don't know. I mean, like, I actually still have not seen the theatrical release of Justice League yet. So,
whoa.
I don't know what I mean. Maybe I will. At this point, I'm deciding if I want to watch the original first or if I want to watch the 4-hour Snyder cut.
Yeah.
Which sounds like extremely excessive. Most of these, like most comics, there are some that lend itself better to light and hopeful kind of storylines, and some lend itself better to the dark and gritty stuff.
Like, a lot of people will always cite the Killing Joke. A lot of people always cite the Dark Knight Returns and the stuff from the 80s that's so dark and gritty, and then eventually like Batman Year One, all this Frank Miller Batman stuff, right? And of course Watchmen. And I think that they know that they had like critical success with that and financial success with those properties, and so they kind of use that as like their litmus test. It's like, oh, well, people really appreciate when we go dark and gritty. And I think they think that, like with the Christopher Nolan movies, those movies were very adult and gritty too. And so I think that they think that that might be the way that they can be successful. I also consider makes them separate from Marvel too.
I was just exactly to say that it makes them a counterpoint to what Marvel does, because Marvel, while it does have those adult themes here and there, I mean, generally speaking, they're a lot more lighthearted, and they have a lot more lighthearted moments. They're still very emotionally heavy at times. I can't. Was it? I read a quote from Seth Rogen recently. He was releasing some comedy movie, and he made reference to like it's hard to compete against $200 million Marvel comedies, because I mean, really, that's kind of what they are sometimes. You know?
Yes.
I mean,
absolutely.
how could you not argue that Thor Ragnarok is not a comedy?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah. Did you see Shazam?
I did. Yes, I like Shazam.
Yeah. Shazam is like what you were saying, we're talking about before. It's like more lighthearted, more fun, and it's definitely comical.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, they kind of give away a lot of the real good jokes in the trailer, I think, but it was fun. I mean, it was a reimagining of the New 52 kind of origin.
Yeah.
And I mean, I enjoyed it, and then I really enjoyed the family aspect of it. At the end, like the whole thing they did there was such a change of pace. Like it was like to see.
I feel like with Shazam and Shazam 2 and with Black Adam, I think that might be the way that DC could make a cohesive shared universe that would keep those values that DC characters have and not be all dark and gritty.
I absolutely agree, but at the same time, I think the shared Marvel continuity is such a 1 in a million thing.
Yeah.
Like, we will never see anything on that scale ever again in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
And I would almost prefer if other properties don't try to emulate at that point. So DC's just seems to be just throwing whatever they can at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah.
And some things have stuck and some things have not.
Yeah. Have you seen Birds of Prey?
Yes, I saw Birds of Prey.
Yeah, I liked Birds of Prey a lot.
Yeah, I thought it was good. Yeah.
Yeah. I know that you like Man of Steel. I like Man of Steel.
Yeah.
We like Birds of Prey then, and then Shazam. Well, what about Aquaman? What do you feel about that one?
I didn't see Aquaman either, actually.
Okay.
I have this crazy track record of seeing like all these superhero movies, and then I just missed like I never saw Green Lantern, I never saw Aquaman, I didn't see Justice League, and then I didn't see like one of the Ghost Rider movies. But everything else I didn't see Fantastic Four either, but I've literally seen everything else.
Going back to Justice League and to these movies in general, what I was going to say was, if you look at the content, right, it seems like in general that DC really likes their alternate takes on these classic heroes. Like if we look at that Gotham Knights trailer, Batman's dead. If we look at the Suicide Squad game, Superman has, I don't know, been like taken over by Brainiac or something, and he's killing people, right?
Yeah.
So we have to kill Superman. And then I know that in the comics, like a really popular comic that came out recently was DCeased, and that's where like a lot of the superheroes are infected zombies killing people. So just over and over again, it seems like they keep drawing from this well where like the heroes are either killed or they become evil. And also in that that video game Injustice too.
Yeah.
You know, so to me, like when you go into like the layoffs and the fact that like DC is kind of changing their publishing mindset too, it almost seems to me like they are not worried about creating new stories with the existing characters in comics, and they want to just kind of do variations of the characters' stories.
That's a really good point. I mean, I think, if anything, Batman has to have the most alternate versions of any character I've ever seen.
Right.
And a lot of them are really good takes. I mean, one of my favorite more recent comics has been the Batman White Knight series, which is just fantastic.
Right.
And again, it's another dark, gritty kind of take, and where Batman is sort of a villain
Right.
in it in a way.
Yeah.
And and the Joker is the hero, which is it's crazy.
I feel like this version that we see in the Batman,
Yeah.
right? I feel like it reminds me of standalone Batman stories I've seen where he's like a lot more intense, like in The Dark Knight Returns, or even in like there's this one run that Brian Azzarello did where Batman kind of enjoys beating people up.
That's part of the problem in that series, is that Batman kind of goes overboard.
Yeah.
A lot, and they kind of make him out to be a villainous character.
Yeah. To me, the part that really stood out in that trailer that I kind of went, whoa. And I know that they were doing this for basically two reasons. One, to be like, this Batman is different from previous film versions of Batman. And then also the other reason is because they're like, oh, look, you think Robert Pattinson isn't tough? Look what he does in this scene, right? And to me, I was just shocked by the brutality where just Batman just wails on this Joker gang member, just wails on him. And like it's punching him while he's still on the ground too. And it really bothered me. Like I couldn't show my kid that trailer.
I think a really important distinction to make between the Marvel and DC movies is that for the most part, you kind of could bring a kid to most of them. And you only have to hide their eyes maybe once or twice. But
right.
A lot of these movies, you probably couldn't show to a kid. You'd have to wait, really wait until they were like 13 or something like that.
I could show my daughter who's 10. I feel like I could show her the trailers at least for like Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, right? But for this one, I just felt like I couldn't show it to her. And I know that I know that they're really playing up the Batman as a detective angle, which I love.
Same.
To me, it looked like Seven. Like it looked like it was like this, serial killer movie. It looked like it was a David Fincher movie. I know it's a Matt Reeves movie, but it just gave off those Seven vibes.
Yeah, I actually just rewatched that one again, like 5 minutes before we got on here. But yeah, I definitely see the Seven vibes. I definitely see the mystery and kind of detective side of it, and I'm very excited about it. I mean, some of the, like you said, we really haven't touched upon that in the Batman movies that much. And I think we're assuming the Riddler is the main villain,
right?
And I think this is a great take to use him for. Especially if you look back to was he in Batman Forever or Batman
Batman
Forever, right?
Forever.
Yeah.
Forever. Yeah.
I mean, not to knock Jim Carrey and all like that, because I mean he's great at what he does, but I mean, those movies are a little on the campy side.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. It reminds me of the Adam West show, and like I've been showing my kids the Adam West show, and I used to actually hate the Adam West show when I was a kid.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, when I was a little kid, I was like, oh, this is cool. But then when I was like 11 or 12, I was like, oh, what the heck? Batman's tough, he's supposed to.
Well, at that point, you've seen Batman the animated series. So.
Right, exactly. And like that's the whole thing. See, I think that like the DC fan base is split into like two parts. I basically think it's like these kind of fanatic Snyder cut people that maybe really love comics from the 90s, right? And then there's the people that know that these characters have been around since like the 1930s. And they know that there's like a thread that that like whatever take you do, there's that consistent thread. Batman's always a hero. Batman doesn't kill, right? But
Yeah.
these other people, they want Batman to kill. They're cool with like Batman shooting up people with his machine gun in the Batmobile and setting guys on fire and branding people. And that's not Batman to me.
I mean, if you look back at some of the video games, the more recent Arkham series games,
yeah,
like the fighting can be pretty brutal. Like you really like destroy people in that game. But if you're on like a rooftop and you punch somebody off there, like somehow there's like an automatic like grappling hook thing that prevents them from falling off to their deaths.
Oh, really?
So they just like hang there. Yeah, I mean they do it in the Spider-Man games too with webs. But it's, so like they perpetuate that Batman doesn't kill thing, even in those games where it is a little more on the physically violent side.
Comics in general, they cover like a big age range, right? And I think that when superhero comics were first established, it was the idea that they were stories for kids, right? And then eventually it was like, okay, well, it's for adolescents, and then they accepted that adults could read them too. And people that were reading comics when they were children stayed fans until they were an adult. Well, I feel like the type of products that we saw at the Fandome are appealing to like adolescents, right? Like they have those like violent tendencies, or like they're looking for violent things. Like they don't want to see Superman catch someone and save someone. They want to see Batman like beat the pulp out of someone, or like they want to see the Red Hood shoot people up,
Yeah.
And I know I sound like I'm on my soapbox. Like, don't get me wrong. I love like violent stories. I love superhero stories with action and fighting and stuff like that. But if they don't show the heroic aspect, it's just vigilantes just beating people up.
Part of it is escalation in action movies. Like, the violence and the action sequences have gotten more elaborate as time has gone on. Like you go back to look at something like The Matrix, where at the time, like the fights were like ridiculous and they were incredible.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of have to keep one-upping things. And I mean, although it's kind of weird that it's the same actor, but like the John Wick movies now, like that's kind of up the game in a way too. Like there are these very elaborate, very violent action scenes that grab people's attention, and they just feel like it's escalated to a point where it's like you have to go even further every time now.
Okay.
But what did you think about the Black Adam announcement trailer thing?
Okay.
With the Rock narration.
Yes. All right. So I don't want to like hijack this and be like, this is all about Pete, which I mean is every fucking video I do, right? But but for the longest time in my head, I was like, okay, here's how you save the DC universe. You make a Hawkman movie, a Dr. Fate movie, and a Spectre movie. And the Hawkman movie takes place in the ancient past, so does Dr. Fate. And then the Spectre takes place in like, I don't know, the 40s or 50s, right? And you build up towards Justice Society the way that you built up to Avengers, right?
Yep.
And I think DC has some kind of plan like that. Because in this Black Adam trailer that you're talking about, or teaser, or whatever the hell it is, he's like, there's not the Spectre, there's Dr. Fate, and there's Hawkman, and they're going to come after me, and they're in the Justice Society, right? Yeah. And then there's also two other Justice Society characters. There's what's the Tornado Girl's name?
Tornado Girl?
Yeah, you didn't see the Tornado Girl in it? Like,
How am I not remembering this?
Yeah. Because there's two young characters. There's like the ancient characters like Hawkman and Doctor Fate, right?
Yeah, it was. I remember seeing Hawkman, Doctor Fate,
And
Atom
then there's
Smasher,
Atom Smasher,
and
right? But then there's the Tornado. I forget what the Tornado Girl's name is, but she's in that Jeff Johns' amazing Justice Society run. You know, like he uses all these characters in that Justice Society run.
man, I feel like I'm losing my nerd cred not remembering this.
Yeah. Well, honestly, in that run, she's just kind of like a background character. They don't have like any story arcs that focus on her.
Yeah,
And she's just to be one of the new young characters that shows up, and just like Stargirl and
yeah.
the boy that gets the genie.
Oh yeah,
Right,
Johnny Thunder. Yeah,
right. And so, in the amazing Jeff Johns run of Justice Society, which is like one of my favorite comic book runs, there's like the younger generation of heroes, and then there's the older heroes from like World War II, and they act as like mentors to the younger heroes, right?
yeah.
And there's this amazing storyline that's called like Black Rain, but it's spelled like rain to rule.
Yep.
And Black Adam basically takes over Kondak, or how do you pronounce that? His country.
That's how he pronounced it. Kondak.
Well, there you go. All right, so good. So he takes over Kondak, and then like the Justice Society tries to go in and take it back or take him down, and that's like the pinnacle of that run. And
Is
I
it
feel like
Cyclone?
there you go. So I feel like this is my long-winded ass answer, but I feel like they're drawn directly from that for the Black Adam movie.
I'm excited to see it, but it's to me, this has probably been the DC movie that's been the longest rumored movie. Like like this has been in production for like 7 or 8 years practically. Like
Yes.
I'll still believe it. I feel like it's like a believe it when you see it kind of thing.
Right.
And they showed some like an animatic. There wasn't any footage or anything like that, so it's like I'm still skeptical that this movie will even come out. It sounds great, but I'm not sure it actually will come out.
Yeah. And I always wonder about like Corona too. Like, how does that affect the production of these movies? Obviously it affects the filming schedule of things too.
Yeah, I mean some of the like the DC TV shows, they just had shorter seasons because they couldn't finish filming their finales, so they kind of ended in weirder spots.
But actually, I'm really glad you brought up the TV shows too, because I feel like even with the TV shows themselves, there's that conflict, that sort of that Snyder fan thing, and then there's also the people that like the characters for who they are.
Yeah.
And like if you look at a show like Titans, I haven't seen a lot of Titans, but I know that the marketing and stuff, you have Robin curse and he's like, fuck Batman, right?
Yeah.
And he like beats people to a pulp and stuff. I felt like, these are the Teen Titans. They should be like fun, upbeat characters, but that show is just so like melodramatic and dark.
I mean, they build the DC Universe services as for entertainment for adults and adult fans. Obviously, there are some much younger takes on Teen Titans in the cartoon versions,
right?
And probably the original cartoon from the early 2000s probably had the best mix of lightheartedness and fulfilling storytelling.
Very good.
But yeah, it seemed like it went a little too hard on that. And then you have like Doom Patrol, which there wasn't really much action at all. It was just some like really messed up people just living, and it was so good.
Yeah. Oh, I love Doom Patrol, and I still haven't watched the second season yet.
I haven't either. Yeah, I got to catch up on that.
With Doom Patrol, I feel like it's kind of acceptable, even though it does have its origins in like kind of Silver Age comics, and it's more family friendly. Doom Patrol is more famous for like the Grant Morrison run, which was like an adult run, like a Vertigo type run. And so I'm totally okay with them doing that with the Doom Patrol, them doing stuff with Swamp Thing, because that's what those characters are really known for.
Yeah.
But with Titans, it was just like too graphic and too intense.
I mean, there are some very violent outcomes to some of those characters in that show.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I finished season 1, but I mean, I got through like 4 or 5 episodes at least.
Ditto. And so, like on the total opposite end of the spectrum is then all the CW stuff. And with CW, it's like I feel like they are faithful to the characters more. And it's definitely more lighthearted, even though Arrow and stuff was kind of more edgy to begin with. But the problem is that they have that CW formula, and I feel like that it's like superhero DC trappings on the CW formula.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's you can take it for what it's worth. I think. I mean, I definitely got some enjoyment out of those shows in some of the earlier years. I mean, it eventually became just too much to keep up with. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, there's like 5 shows now. It's like it's crazy.
Yeah. Like Arrow season 2. I love Arrow season 2.
Arrow season 2 was like one of the best parts of any of them, I think.
Yeah.
Not to discredit the show, but I mean they really made a Batman show starring Green Arrow.
Right. And it worked. And I feel like
Yeah.
it like really increased the fan base for Green Arrow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's a much more recognizable character now in the public because of that show.
Our conversation, we've been kind of talking about like the best versions or the versions that are the most satisfying to us. The versions where the characters are having their like they're done justice, right? Pun intended.
Yeah.
Right? and so to me, I feel like there's 2 perfect examples of how you can tell DC stories outside of the comics. Obviously, the first one is Batman the animated series and everything that evolved from that, right? And Batman the animated series is a great example because it's dark, it's violent, and it's very adult, but then it also is kid friendly too. Like I can show my 4-year-old episodes of Batman the animated series.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have.
I want to see if you can guess my other example.
Is it Young Justice?
Of course.
Nice.
Young Justice, once again, it's like it's real intense and it's real adult. And there's even some like jokes that they make and stuff where I'm like, whoa, this is a kid's cartoon, you know? Like Young Justice, you know, once again, it's like very violent, very intense, but still it captures the feeling of the characters.
Yeah, and I think one of the Young Justice's greatest strengths is that it's very serialized.
Yes.
Batman the Animated Series wasn't as serialized. I mean, actually, it's really not at all. There's very little that continues on from there.
Right.
But then when you get to like the Justice League cartoon, it starts to get a little more like that. The first season was all every story was at least 2 episodes.
Yep.
If not 3, and that eventually changes later on. They kind of do the one-off thing, but Young Justice is literally a comic book brought to life. Like everything matters in that universe, and I always love shows that do that.
I feel like there is room though for characters that aren't as established where you could do something really exciting with them. And I feel like that's what James Gunn is going to do with the Suicide Squad.
We saw 2 different trailers for that. The one was like a making of, and the other was just like a character lineup, which was very helpful because there's a ton of pretty recognizable actors in that movie, and they're all playing very unrecognizable characters. But yeah, I think there's definitely room for those kind of more minor characters to shine. I think a great example is King Shark. King Shark has now appeared in the Harley Quinn cartoon. He's going to be in the Suicide Squad game. Right. He's going to be in this movie. It's people see there's a lot of buzz around the character, honestly.
It's just perfect that James Gunn is in charge because it's just like what he did with Guardians of the Galaxy. Like,
yeah, he took a bunch of characters people didn't know and made them household names.
Yeah. Because like you and I know that the Guardians of the Galaxy comic, those characters are very random and obscure, but then they did bring them together in the comic before the movie.
Yep.
And the miniseries and stuff they had before the movie was really good too.
Yes.
But it wasn't like James Gunn's version of Guardians of the Galaxy.
No, that was James Gunn putting his stamp on what the Marvel narrative needed.
Yep. It perfectly worded because that is exactly what it needed. I feel like that, like without that movie, I don't know how, like Marvel still would be successful, but I don't think it would be as successful.
Yes, I agree.
You know, and so like if he is able to do that with DC, then we could see it going in a whole different direction.
I'm very curious to see what he'll do. I mean, we know he's doing Guardians of the Galaxy 3 eventually. But yeah. I'm curious to see what else he'll do, if anything, with the DC characters.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Do you think he's going to kill Harley?
No.
No? Okay.
No. Although, you know, Birds of Prey didn't do that well financially. Right. Suicide Squad, I think, made some decent money, but it was critically panned.
Yeah.
But they have a highly recognizable character there. Right. I don't think that they will kill off you know, her or Idris Elba's character, Bloodsport. I mean, there's a few people there that you just kind of feel like, okay, they're definitely gonna survive.
Right. But Colonel Rick Flag, probably not.
Oh yeah, no, he's not. Yeah, they need to sacrifice somebody. It's either my money's either on him. They need to sacrifice somebody from the original cast.
Right.
It's either going to be him or Captain Boomerang.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, he was very noticeably last in that lineup, and you know, he's a returning character. You know.
Is there any obscure character that you're the most excited about seeing in that lineup?
Maybe Nathan Fillion's character, just because I don't think it's actually any character. I think it's an original creation.
Oh really?
In a way.
What's his name?
So his name is TDK, and he has that kind of symbol where he's crossing his arms, and it looks like his arms are coming off. So I've read that people think it's based off Arms Fall Off Boy from the Legion of Superheroes.
Okay.
But it clearly isn't that character because they didn't name it that. But I imagine he's gonna die pretty quickly because he's like a James Gunn regular.
Right.
So
right.
like you'll probably see Michael Rooker die. You'll probably see Nathan Fillion die. I imagine Pete Davidson's gonna die right off the bat. And I hope he does.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're not gonna see Amanda Waller die. You'll probably see Idris Elba continue on.
Right.
Harley has to live. Like there's no way they'll kill Harley.
Yeah.
You could arguably say that Harley is almost a more well-known character to the general public than the Joker at this point in time, which is kind of because you know they kind of screwed up him in the original Suicide Squad movie.
I think that you're absolutely right because with Harley Quinn, there's at least consistency between the Suicide Squad first movie, Birds of Prey, and now this movie.
Yeah.
Whereas with Batman, now you have Ben Affleck and you also have Robert Pattinson, right?
I mean, you have multiple Jokers too. You have the what can't I remember his name?
Jared Leto.
You have Jared Leto, and then but also Joaquin Phoenix.
Right.
I mean, maybe they're making the three Jokers in a movie form.
Yeah, that'd be kind of awesome, But like, I hate that Jared Leto version though.
See, I really think the only thing that really bugged me about it was like the tattoos in his face.
Oh, okay.
Like remove that. I don't think I would have much of a problem.
I just felt like he was like too dramatic, and he wasn't really funny.
He was not funny. No. I mean, there have been different takes, and I think he had to make some choices to distinguish himself from probably honestly one of my favorite Joker portrayals is Heath Ledger.
Oh yeah.
Which I think most people would say that really. I mean, it's either Mark Hamill or Heath Ledger.
Yes.
But
I would say ultimately Mark Hamill is my favorite, just as I would say that Kevin Conroy is my favorite Batman too.
Absolutely.
Like you see how we're always referring back to Batman the Animated Series,
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, that's Batman the Animated Series and the X-Men cartoon, and to a slightly lesser extent the Spider-Man cartoon. That was like the basis of my love of comics. Like that's what got me hooked on everything. It was those three shows. I mean, and Batman was one of the best things I've ever seen.
Yes.
Still to this day.
The music, man, oh my God. Like if you play the opening credit music for Mask of the Phantasm, like I get friggin' chills, and it's decades later.
Yeah.
I guess we didn't cover the games. You want to cover the games?
We didn't cover the games too much. So the only really one thing I wanted to distinguish about the games is that they're actually not part of the same universe. So again, they're not sticking to a cohesive universe. So the Suicide Squad game is actually like a continuation of the Arkham games in that universe. But this time, you're playing as villainous characters and you're in Metropolis. I think, it's Metropolis. It actually says it.
Yeah.
And it does look like Brainiac's the villain in this. And in that universe, Bruce Wayne is basically retired or he didn't die, but he made it look like he died in that. So I'm curious to see if Batman will come back in that or not, or if he's part of this mind control. But yeah, it looks like an interesting game. I think they're looking to make it a games as a service kind of game, which is basically it's like a half MMO sort of thing where they just keep giving you new updates with new content, for years at a time. I mean, like the days of the days of a game is done when it ships is long over.
Oh,
So
okay.
you'll get like a drip of content for years to come. I mean, you'll see if you've seen anything about the new Avengers game coming out. I think that's going to be a decent blueprint of what this game's going to look like.
Oh, okay. So,
Um,
so is it like Destiny, where like they have new
yeah,
chapters come out?
yeah.
Okay.
Basically, yeah. You'll have new events coming out, and there'll be seasons and be upgrades and skills and stuff like that. I think I'm more excited about the other game, Gotham Knights,
Yes.
which it was confirmed that it is its own continuity,
Okay.
which I think is interesting because I mean you really could have tied it into the whole Batman disappearing thing
Yeah.
that the other series did, but it's just exciting that they letting you play as the other characters,
Yeah.
which is Nightwing, Jason Todd, Red Hood, Batgirl, and then I'm pretty sure it's Tim Drake Robin, but I'm not 100% sure.
I saw it's Tim Drake.
It is Tim Drake
It is.
because his costume looks a little. He's got the hood,
Right.
which screams Damien to me.
Damien. Yeah.
I'm excited to have those to play those different characters. You sort of got a little bit of a look at them in some of the games, but it was not really in story missions.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be a cool way to see how these characters operate differently from Batman, because those games were about detective work. You had like all these different. You had like a night vision camera and like this one camera that kind of let you find clues and stuff,
Yeah.
which really doesn't make sense. But it was a cool game mechanic.
I have only played the first Arkham game because I'm not as much of a gamer as you are by any means, right? But I know that you always said it was great, and I got it, and I loved it, the first Arkham game. And then
They're
so that
absolutely
Arkham
fantastic.
game, and then they made Rocksteady made that, right? And then they made both of these new games, right?
So Rocksteady made the Arkham trilogy, and they're making the Suicide Squad game. WB Montreal is making Gotham Knights.
Okay, that answers my question because I was like, why is it not the same continuity if it's the same company? We actually didn't talk about Wonder Woman at all.
Oh my God, or Flashpoint.
Yeah. The reason why I think we didn't talk about Wonder Woman is because, in my opinion, I felt like this trailer was not as good as the previous trailer.
Yes, and I think at the same time, this movie was supposed to come out twice already.
Wow.
We should have seen it. April was the original date, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was April to August to October. So I mean, like, how much more can they show you? At this point, like we've probably seen a good amount of the set pieces in the movie by this point.
Yeah, and now we know like kind of Cheetah's final form too.
Yeah, which is an upgrade over Cats, if you ask me.
Right. Yeah. But the thing is, do you buy Kristen Wiig as that?
That's a great question. And I'm going to steal a line from my wife, who said this earlier today. She was very happy that they actually cast someone like her. They cast the comedic actress who's not that young. I mean, she's almost 50 years old.
Oh wow.
And I think that has some merit. I kind of want to see. I mean, it's definitely an underdog kind of casting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a well-known character, and even if you know the name, you probably don't know anything about her because I barely do.
Right.
I know the character's real name. I know what she does. That's about it.
Right.
I mean, everything I've seen her in has been Legion of Doom related, and but I think it could be like a sleeper kind of a casting, to be honest.
I love Kristen Wiig. I think she's this excellent actress. I think she's very funny. She's definitely one of the funniest cast members they've ever had on Saturday Night Live. And,
Absolutely.
And I'm okay with like a CGI Cheetah because they showed kind of different versions of her, and it looks like she's kind of like evolving throughout the movie.
Yeah.
And had it just been that she kind of had like cheetah print clothes on, but she could move fast, that would have bothered me. Like I need that kind of feral beast looking cheetah.
Yeah, and I hope they have some better effects for that. And it seems like they do. Than the end of the first Wonder Woman movie, because I feel like Ares just didn't look right.
No. And you've said to me that you really like 2/3 of that Wonder Woman movie, and I know the end third you don't like.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
That scene where Wonder Woman is coming out of the trench, that's my favorite scene in all of the DC films.
Oh yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah.
So I have good feelings about Wonder Woman, but I do think that I liked that first trailer more, and I feel like they just showed so much in this one, and I just wish it was out already. So going along with what you're saying, but then the other thing was Flash. And see, here's the thing. I don't really know a lot of details besides that the director is the guy who directed It Chapter 1 and 2.
I don't think I even knew that.
Yeah, Machete is his last name.
Okay.
And I know that they're saying that like his costume is different, and it's because Bruce Wayne has helped him. And when they showed that frame or whatever of Bruce Wayne helping him, it was like the Michael Keaton Batman.
Yes. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure they actually like officially confirmed it was going to be a Flashpoint movie at this point.
Okay.
It was a rumor, but I think they finally confirmed it, and it's really cool to see them bringing stuff in like Michael Keaton. I'm very interested to see if he will be the same Bruce Wayne from the Tim Burton movies, or maybe he's Thomas Wayne, because he was a big component of the Flashpoint story.
Yeah.
And I'm also wondering if this kind of like Marvel's Age of Ultron, like it was just the Ultron character and with almost nothing to do with that storyline that was Age of Ultron. So maybe it's just a Flash movie and there's some very bare bones kind of connections, but ultimately it's going to be a mostly original creation. I've read rumors of Grant Gustin making an appearance, which is cool. Which is cool after Ezra Miller made an appearance on Flash.
Yeah.
And supposedly Ben Affleck is back for this movie as well.
I heard that too. Yeah.
So I mean, I'm really interested in it because I really like the Flashpoint story. I think I like the Flashpoint story more so for the Batman aspect of it. Right. I mean, I still love the Thomas Wayne as Batman, and then I mean, not to spoil anything, but who the Joker is in that and that dynamic. I love that reveal and that little side story and that crossover.
Yeah.
But that story was sort of a way to wrap up a continuity and start fresh with something new.
Right.
And it just seems a weird place to throw it in because the DC stuff is such a weird amalgamation of continuity and stages of what they're trying to do, and it just doesn't seem like the right time to do it.
Like before, you said that you weren't that excited about Black Adam because there's been so much talk about it for years now at this point, and that's kind of the way I feel about this Flashpoint movie. It's not like it's been the production stopped on it multiple times. It seems like it's never going to get made too. And
I mean, they changed directors a few times too, didn't they?
Oh yeah. Like Grant Morrison was writing it at one point too. With Grant what's the guy who plays Flash in the movie?
Ezra Miller.
Ezra Miller. Like they were writing it together at one point. Like it's just gone through so many different changes. Like I'll believe it when I see it. For Flashpoint.
Yeah.
But I mean, if it did have Michael Keaton's Batman, I actually would be very disappointed if he was the Flashpoint Batman because I feel like that's just a wasted opportunity. Like, I feel like it's a waste of the Flashpoint Batman character because you could use the Thomas Wayne from Batman v Superman, and that'd be excellent.
Which is Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Yeah, that would be really cool too. Actually, now you mentioned it, and it could almost if he's Thomas Wayne, if Michael Keaton is Thomas Wayne, it could almost be like a I guess a misfire. So with the Crisis on Infinite Earths and the Arrowverse, they had Kevin Conroy actually play a live action Bruce Wayne, and he was kind of like a jerk. And he was a broken man on multiple levels, both physically and mentally.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like almost disrespectful in a way. Mm-hmm. It's like you have this great legacy version of a character, and then you just give them that,
Like trips over and dies. Like he kind of just falls over and dies.
Yeah, I mean, I think he got pushed, but it was almost like a Dick Van Dyke death. It's just like he tripped over something and died.
Oh my god! Yeah. For Michael Keaton, I feel like it'd just be a waste because you have this legacy of him as Batman, and people remember it. It's like, why make him a different character?
Yeah. Out of everything you saw at Fan, I mean, we got off a lot of tangents here, but what would you say were your one or two favorite things and your one or two least favorite things that came out of it?
I really didn't like Batman beating the Joker guy to a pulp. Honestly, I can't think of anything else that I'm really complaining about that I have a problem with. Talking with you has actually made me feel more optimistic about all these projects, I just didn't like Batman beating the guy like that. And I know they could write it off some way. I know that you've kind of said before that like he's like a younger, not as experienced version of Batman.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like year two of Batman.
Yeah. So that was off-putting, but then otherwise I don't know if there's anything that really bothered me. I don't like the idea that like people really want these violent versions of these characters and
Yeah.
they want to just see people getting beaten up by them. I want to see them be heroes. For my things that I really enjoyed, I really enjoyed that Suicide Squad trailer where they just showed all the characters showing up for the
The
first
lineup.
time.
Yep.
And then I guess for my other thing that was exciting, the other thing was I actually really like that the Justice Society is in Black
Adam. Yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah.
For me, well, my negatives or positives first?
Let's do negatives first. Let's end on a positive.
Okay. So I think my only negative that I really have out of this whole thing was the trailer for the Snyder Cut. We talked about this before off camera.
Yeah.
The use of the Leonard Cohen song Hallelujah, and you educated me that it was Leonard Cohen. I had no idea, but it's just it kind of goes hand in hand with the fanatical Snyder Cut fans.
Yeah.
And it's almost like it feels like it's trying to be like preachy or prophetic in some way, and it's just too much for me.
Yes.
I mean, I probably will watch it. I'm a little hesitant to watch a 4-hour and a weekly installment of a movie.
Right.
But it's I can't imagine it living up to the hype. I'm sure for the proponent of the Snyder Cut will love it regardless. I don't think it could possibly live up to the amount of publicity it's gotten.
Yeah. And I'm really glad you brought that up because that would be my other negative too. Yeah. Just the reaction to the Snyder Cut trailer.
Yeah. My two favorite things I would probably say is I kind of touched on it already, but was I'm very excited about Gotham Knights game. Like I said, I feel like it probably will be a little on the violent side too, but I think there's a chance for some of that more hopefulness because of the characters in play. I mean, Red Hood not so much, but Batgirl and Nightwing and Tim, I think they'll bring a different perspective to those kind of games, and yeah. I'm very excited to play that and play as those other characters. I mean, it's great playing as Batman, but I mean, you don't often get to play these other guys either.
Right.
And of course, we completely neglected to mention this, but it's the villains seem to be based on the Court of Owls, which is very exciting.
Yes, hell yeah. So that's one of your good.
That's one. And now I'm actually gonna have a counterpoint here to you because I'm actually really excited about the Batman. I completely understand your point about the level of violence in there, but that trailer, especially like I've watched it a few times now, it's the music, which is it's like a remix of Nirvana's "Something in the Way,"
right?
And then they don't even show the Riddler, but I mean, I assume that's him talking over most of the trailer,
right?
I loved how you put it. It was put together, and like you mentioned, it kind of gives off vibes of like Seven or just some kind of noir story. I'm really pumped for this movie.
Yeah,
and I think the casting is pretty fantastic so far.
Yeah,
that's the thing to beat for me.
Yeah, I think Colin Farrell is the Penguin in it, right?
Yeah, and you see a little bit of him.
Right. Yeah, he's in a car and he's like, "This guy's crazy" or something, right?
Yeah.
I'm actually really glad that we had this conversation because when I first watched this Fandome stuff, I was having some negative thoughts about DC, but then it's kind of shown me that, like, even though there is this aggressive side to it, they still do capture some of the things that we love about these characters.
Absolutely.
And I think there are things to look forward to. I really appreciate you talking to me about this today. And I'm always down for having you on my Anchor Points show just to talk about comics too.
Yeah, dude, I'll do whatever. I don't care.
Nice. And so people should know that our next episode of Ramblings of the Rob Pod is coming out soon. And it's going to have our review of episodes 2 through 6 of Transformers War for Cybertron Siege.
Yep. Looking forward to it.
Cool, man. Well, thank you so much.